All right, everyone, we are back out here on the ditches, and pretty much the goal of today is to finish this run right here, get all this knocked down, and then we'll go around that way, and then we've got a pile right here to rake out as well. It's a pretty big pile too, considering some of the size of some of the other ones. So we're gonna knock all this down. That was really hard for me to climb that pile and kind of mow some of this down. You could see I couldn't even reach like that, some of that stuff right there, the way that corner was all just kind of built up and narrow and mangled with the piles and everything. So we're just gonna kind of clean all this up, and I'm hoping the next project out here will be to clean these ditches out there. I think they're about time for it, so we'll see. But yeah, all this is looking good through here. And some of the other places where I've already cleaned up some of these piles, like over there, the grass is already starting to come in. The weeds and the grass are starting to grow back through, which is a good sign. So we'll just get started and see how it goes. Pain, I guess. I'm gonna roll this door up. It's a beautiful day. And my windshield's got a bunch of mud all over it. It got splattered yesterday working, and or day before yesterday. So it is a beautiful day. It rained. We had some bad thunderstorms last night, and it rained pretty good. The ground's a little wet, but it's a little cloudy and cool this morning, but it has, sun is out. It is a pretty nice day. We'll get a little bit of an open cab experience here today. Get the cab open for a bit. Just about done with my graduate school, my I guess you could call it my master's thesis or my senior thesis, whatever you want to call it. I'm just about done with it. The writing portion of it is done. I've just got to do some proofreading and make sure all my references are in there and formatted correctly. APA standard, and fill in my table of contents, and that'll pretty much be it for the most part. It's due Sunday. I'll be turning that in, and then it has to go to my thesis advisor for review in about 2 weeks, and I guess may have to make a few changes or modifications or whatever until it gets sent to whoever else for approval. I will be done with graduate school, and as a sort of a graduate school completion present to myself, I'm going to go try to hunt up a used PlayStation 4 so I can play the new Final Fantasy VII Remake. Seen a couple of my videos, my bush hogging videos and stuff, every now and then at the end of the video, if the job goes good, I'll put like a little victory theme at the end of the video. I really want to play Final Fantasy VII. Was my all-time favorite game ever, and when they said in 2015 that they were going to be remaking it, that was just the coolest thing. And I've been waiting on that game for forever. And I just haven't had the time to be able to play it. I've been wanting to get through graduate school, but I'm going to go hunt down a used PS4, buy that game, and maybe just kind of nerd out for about a month. Oh, about tired of reading research papers and writing. I just want to sit in front of a TV and play video games for like a month. I know y'all see me run equipment, you know, almost every day, but I am a kind of a nerd at heart. Bit of a nerd. I got some good feedback. You know, a lot of people wanted to hear some Army stories, so I've got a couple in mind. So stay tuned for those. So I'm going to go ahead and warn y'all, they will be not safe for work. Okay? Y'all will hear some language and some adult situations. So, you guys wanted some Army stories, I'm going to tell them. But you're going to hear some foul language. And, but they're going to be interesting. They're going to be interesting. They're going to be funny. Most of my time in the Army was eventful. A lot of it. Well, actually, a lot of it was actually boring, to tell you the truth. But there were a few situations that were quite eventful. The first story, and one of them actually happened before I even joined the Army. It was actually in my process of joining the Army, and that'll be the first story I tell. And it's almost too wild to believe, to tell you the truth. I think back when I tell people this story, and they're just like, there's no way. And I'm like, yep, that actually happened. So stay tuned for that. I'm just kind of knocking and raking these piles down. I'll come back when we get down to the end, and I'll track all this down, and that'll kind of smooth it down to a degree. I know y'all see me run the skid steer a lot, but I am much more at home and comfortable in a mini excavator. Honestly, I really don't really like running the skid steer all that much sometimes. I know that's crazy to sound, but I would really much rather be in this thing. I've never sat in a skid steer or even run one until I bought that John Deere that I have now in 2018. We got that in April of 2018. It was almost 3 years ago. Right at 3 years ago is when we bought that machine. And I had never run one, sat in one, used one, nothing. Closest thing I'd ever come to running one of those was running a backhoe. It has a front bucket on it. And I've had a good bit of experience in backhoes, and I'd had a lot of experience with mini excavators as well. Because I'd owned my old John Deere 35 for about a year when we had bought that, and then I'd had some other times where I'd rented mini excavators for jobs and projects here and there. So I've always just really liked being on excavators more than the skid steer. I'm just more comfortable with this. I'm more confident with it. So that's not an indictment of the machine itself. I do like that John Deere machine, and if I get another skid steer, my upgrade sometime in the future, won't be this year most likely, but if I do get to that point, I will definitely be considering I'm strongly considering another John Deere. I really like the John Deere skid steers. They're powerful, and I think they're well built and well designed machines. They're not without their flaws. No machine is perfect in that regard, but for me and what I do, I like them. And lately I've had pretty good experiences with my local dealer, Flint. When I first got my little John Deere 35, and even after I got that skid steer, I'd had a couple of experiences that I was not super happy with them about, but they have gotten a lot better in the last year or so, and I've been pretty happy with them. And their dealership is very convenient because it's right not too far down the road from our farm, and so it's about 5 miles or so, and I can get there pretty quickly and easily. Though the local Takeuchi dealer is not too far either. That's probably about 10 miles ish, something like that. It's about 10 miles. They're not too far either. It's kind of between John Deere and Takeuchi, but I do like my Deere. But I've never heard anybody have anything bad to say about the TL12s either, which would be, outside of that 333G, would be the only thing I would consider getting. It would work, but I like being able to have the teeth to kind of rake through some of this material and kind of break up some of the clumps. Seems to work pretty good. Now maybe for cleaning out the ditches, the smooth edge would be maybe a little better. Well, Houston, we have a problem. A minor problem, but a problem. Lost one of my bucket teeth. And I just put the pin back in that the other day, and it was kind of tight, but I was like, you know, I probably need to get a new pin for that, but it looked okay. And I guess it just come right out of there. And I don't know where the tooth is. It's buried under this dirt here somewhere, I guess. I didn't see it come off, which sucks. So we'll have to see if I can get a new tooth. Possibly. Well, definitely, but oh, great. That's annoying. And the nearest Kubota dealer is like an hour away. Maybe a little more. Yeah, like about an hour. Maybe an hour and a half, actually. There's a tractor place not too far from here. I don't know if they have these teeth or not. I guess, I don't know if these are like a Kubota tooth. They look just like the teeth that I had on my old John Deere 35 buckets. Pretty standard, so I'll call them and see if I can get a hold of a tooth. All of these teeth are a little loose. Like when I bought this machine, they had a weld bead right there, kind of holding them there, but they're all a little loose. But they said these were new teeth. But they've all just kind of, well, that one's not bad, but these ones in the middle have all kind of worn out, and that one's about gone too. So they all need new pins, I guess. All right, we'll see if I can do something with this. Okay, so here's where we're at with this tooth. This is the tooth that fell off. I took this tooth off because the pin was already halfway broken in there anyway, so I just knocked it out. And there was a local John Deere dealer about 10 minutes down the road, and it's not a very big store. It's really just a supply point, I think, mostly for the forestry logging companies down here. And so I went in there. They didn't have they measured the tooth and everything, so that's why I took this one off. The pin was messed up anyway, but I needed something for them to reference. So I went in there, they measured it. It's just a standard, I guess, tooth or whatever. And I had two options. I could have driven all the way to Ladson, which was like a 2-hour round trip, or I could finish out the day with the little Takeuchi up there. So I called the owner and kind of explained everything, and he said, you know, feel free to hop on the Takeuchi, man, you know. And he's like, I want you to run it. I'm like, okay. So they're getting me another tooth that's coming in. It'll be here first thing in the morning, and I'm getting all new pins. These pins are a little loose, so just in case anything else falls out, I'll have some pins. So I'm getting one new tooth. The other tooth is in the truck. So when the new pins come in, I'll put that one on, and we'll get the new tooth on, and we'll be good to go. So hopefully, these teeth are relatively new, so hopefully the new tooth won't be too much longer than them. I don't think that's going to be a huge deal. But if I'm just out here doing this rough grading, I don't think it'd be a problem. So let's go grab the Takeuchi, get it warming up, and we'll get back to work. All right, guys, we're up here on this big hill on the other side of the ditch, and we're gonna start raking this back, and I'm gonna try to start transferring it all down here through here, and we'll grade all that out through there. And kind of won't be completely level, but it won't be sort of like an uphill, a gentle uphill slope, and not this big conglomeration of pile here. So at least that's the plan. Got things I've found just from running this thing for a few more hours a day that I like. Some things I don't like. I'll tell you guys what those are. Nothing major, nothing huge, but we'll get into that at the end of the video, so just stay tuned. smaller machine, but it's not, hasn't been like a huge decrease in efficiency. Nothing to be concerned about. Because of the angle of the camera, I had to kind of put the boom a little more offset. I can't quite see the right side of the bucket like you guys can. Just kind of having to lean my head over a little bit so I can see the whole bucket. But I want to make sure you guys have a view. Someone said I do need to get a lapel mic. I'm going to try to see about getting one of those if I do more in-cab stuff with the GoPro. This thing has excellent reach for its size. I guess this is, I think most of the Takeuchis come as a long arm, so I don't know how this one specs out compared to the arms of some of the other machines, but the reach does seem really good. I don't know exactly what that specification is off the top of my head, but just from running it, it seems good. This thing is just, it's butter smooth, man. And the ergonomics of the controls, the way the controls, you know, for me personally, in the cab is just way better, way more comfortable to run than the Kubota. skew. Big buckets. Doesn't have to be anything pretty as far as a grade. Just can't be a big pile. Just something to get in here and mow fairly easily with a tractor or with this thing. And you're not having to fight the piles and fight big humps of stuff. So doesn't have to be anything super pretty. That already looks a lot better. Just going to kind of clean this up right here a little bit. Push that down that way. That up. There we go. Today has been such a nice day. I've enjoyed having the door open and the windshield out. Man, that's nice. You can sit in this thing kind of open cab. Run this down a little bit. See what it looks like. I'm not even going to blade it off. I'm just going to let between the root mat and kind of some of the clay in it, it gets a little lumpy when you try to blade it. But the tracks seem to do a pretty good job of laying it down and kind of grading it down, actually, like almost like a sheep's foot roller would do. So that looks much better. All right, so got the machine back over here under the canopy, end of the day. Really enjoyed running this thing again today. No real huge complaints with it at all. I'd say one thing I did fall in love with, man, the ergonomics of these controls in here, of the joysticks, I just love. I really love the way that the seat is super comfortable. It's air ride, and the way this comes across here, and you can get to these controls. Like my Kubota is like, the controls are like way down here, and your arms, like instead of coming across like this, are way down at an angle, and you're like using the controls like way down here, and I really don't like that. I really like the way that's set up. The only thing I don't like is I figured out this little trigger button here is the 2-speed. Basically to put it into like rabbit mode, you know, high speed when you're tracking. On my Kubota, there's a trigger right here that does that. And so when you're blading, when you're doing blade work, you know, with the front blade on my Kubota, I can click that button and I can push in, you know, low gear, and then I can raise the blade, hit this button, and be in high speed, you know, high gear, and then back up and not have to take my hand off this to switch between low and high gear when I'm doing, you know, dozing or blade work or backfilling. With this, you have to take your hand off of this to hit this button again to go back to high speed if you want to, you know, go into 2-speed when you back up. And that's kind of an efficiency thing with this that I don't really like. Takeuchi, if you're listening, this 2-speed button needs to be under here. It's just so much better, because that's when you really use a lot of the 2-speed function, is when you are doing blade work, in my mind. So that's really the only complaint that I have with this cab and the way everything's set up. And other than this, then the thumb, I'd rather have that thumb function on the right hand joystick than on the left, and it's backwards. This is down, and that's kind of awkward to me. But you could fix that. That simple thing is just take the cylinder and flip it over to get the lines going from one side to the other. So that's really an easy fix. That's not a huge deal. The only other thing I like, and this isn't Takeuchi's deal, this is Tag's deal, I really like this thumb. The way this is nice and wide, and these ridges in here that to grab stuff, that's great. But these two prongs here come down and they intersect with these two teeth right here. I don't like that. This should be a little wider and have this come right here and to intersect, you know, bisect these teeth right here, so the thumb and the bucket mate together, and you can really clamp down on, you know, smaller stuff and get, you know, if it's like roots and stuff and dirt, you can really clamp down on that. It leaves a big space, a gap in here where you can't really grab stuff. So Tag, if you're listening to that, I love this thumb design. I love these ridges. It just grabs. You got this big plate here to hold stuff in place and keep it from not falling through. But this needs to be just a hair wider, you know, 2 inches or so to mate right in here. Other than that, this is a stout setup with this. This is a stout thumb, and that's a stout bucket. It's all of it's good, but it just needs to be, this just needs to be a hair wider. Outside of that, I have no other issues with this thing. It's awesome. It's really, it's a smooth, powerful, nice machine. I've really enjoyed using it today. So thanks to the owner for pulling me out of a jam with that, letting me use this thing to get some more work done. Saved me a 2-hour trip to all the way down to Charleston, basically, to go get another tooth for the Kubota. So, all right, well, I'm going to wrap this up and get out of here for the day. So I'll see you guys later.